First, Alan, could you perhaps, in your own words, just describe your life's work and what has it been powered by? What is the common thread across all of these stages in your career?
Well, it was really cancer research. Early on, I became, wondered what I was going to do with my life. And, I was looking for something that was worthwhile. And a friend of mine got cancer and it seemed very unfair. She had actually two children and, and she left them motherless. And that seemed pretty awful. So it was just a good example of the damage that cancer can do. And so I decided I'd spend my life really working on that. And I have.
That's wonderful. Um, and tell us a bit more about the origin story of stem cells. So, when did you decide to launch it? What were those early days like?
Well, stem cell was launched really because it was to support our research in the Terry Fox Laboratory, which my wife and I founded back in the 1980. So as a researcher, there's never enough money to do all the research you want. And so the question is how to make some money that would support our research. And we had formulated some really special media for growing blood forming stem cells, which are key to understanding leukemia and the regulation of growth and differentiation in the blood system. So I decided that we would start to sell this to our colleagues around the world. And it would also actually standardize the results that people get in different labs, because up until that time, people were making their own tissue culture media for growing blood forming stem cells, and there was a lot of variation in the results, and it wasn't clear whether this was due to the media or to the result that you were looking for in terms of understanding the growth and regulation of differentiation. So we started selling it, and people loved it, and it's become the gold standard in the world, and still is 30 years later. Everybody uses it.
That's amazing. So powerful, not just as a business, as a growing business, but really to standardize the experimental conditions that are used in
Yes.
research and really drive that overall purpose of treating cancer and other diseases. That's amazing. Now, was it typical of a startup? Was it sort of over the kitchen table and cobbling things together on a shoestring budget, or
No,
did
no,
you?
no, no. It was all obvious, right? I mean, we'd started selling the media actually before '93, so that I knew the market was there, and I was, we were making it in the Terry Fox lab, and the directors of the BC Cancer Agency thought that I should set up a company. Now there was a bit of a biotech boom going on then, so and I think they thought, I need investors and maybe they would help me and so on, right? But um, I'd watched some of my colleagues start companies and get into trouble with investors who were all anxious just to make money and push, 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 push. And I didn't want to have anything like that happen. So yes, I negotiated with the BC Cancer Agency Foundation, and we developed a price that we would pay, and the money would all go back to support the Terry Fox Lab, which was perfect. And I decided that I would mortgage my house, remortgage our house, I should say, and uh, and I got a loan from Western Economic Diversification for $500,000, and that was and we paid that back. So that's how we actually started, and initially I was able to continue to use the facilities in the Terry Fox lab to make the media for a year or two while we built a little manufacturing facility on 7th Avenue, and then we were on our own, and I didn't pay too much attention to it because I was really had other things. I was head of hematology, running the Terry Fox lab. It was all about research and stuff, and this was sort of a side thing. But but it was growing. And so, and then I had to retire, you see, because I was 65 18 years ago. And, uh, and the rule was you had to retire. And so that's when I now put all my energy just into stem cell. But of course, that rule, they changed 3 months later after they got rid of me. And and my wife continues to work in the Terry Fox lab. In fact, she's the oldest employee of the cancer agency. And she's still running the lab with graduate students and postdocs. And she's a very famous world-class stem cell biologist. So so uh, so those things, the need for financial um, support, more support because there's never enough, and also the drive that we and my wife had to actually continue to do our work was really the thing that resulted in me really starting this company and driving it forward.
That makes so sense. So and some great to hear some other strains there, like, non-dilutive funding coming in, loan finance from Western Economic Diversification, now Pacifican. I think we have some friends from Pacifican on the call today. So yeah, you can see a lot of the themes of what's necessary to build a successful startup there. I know you do have strong opinions about capital and where to take it from, and when is bootstrapping relevant, when is taking venture funds and growing as fast as you possibly can relevant. Do you want to share a bit about your observations there? As you said, there was a bit of a boom 30 years ago in biotech in BC, but some struggles as well.
Yeah, I watched a couple of my colleagues try to start companies, and the idea was that somebody would come in and help them, and they take equity in the company, like quite a lot of equity, right? Just to do that, and and somebody tried to do that with me, and I could see he basically he wanted half the company, right? And I said, no, this is my knowledge, or our knowledge, my wife and I, and what you're doing is sort of standard business type stuff, and I can read up in books on that, and I did, right? So I said I really don't need this help, and it was really, for me, it was a very good decision because as you watch a lot of companies in BC, they're set up really to be sold. They're after one product that's probably have clinical relevance because that's where the market is, and so there's and the investors will push the scientist, to grow and grow and grow, and then maybe after, and I saw this happen after a few years, they say you need even more money. We need more investors, and of course, what's happened is the first investors sell out to the second investors. So the first investors look like they've made some money and feel all sort of But you as a scientist are left now with a bigger story to tell investors who are really not that familiar with what you're trying to do, and so you there's this sort of escalation that's pushed upon you, and often this collapses, right? So and then you're left, firing all those smart young kids you hired, and it's just tragic. So I didn't want that pressure. There was no, we actually had a product, and we didn't have to do any research on it. It was a product that everybody knew how to make, actually. Uh, my wife thought no one will ever buy this because everybody can make it themselves. Well, but making it really well and with quality components, uh, and making it available to the world was really critical. And having technical support to help people to grow cells and understand the cell biology, because a lot of people doing research come in from a biochemistry background or a molecular background, and they don't really understand how to grow cells. So being very helpful, that was the thing that really started us. It's the quality of our product and its usefulness, as well as the tech support that went with it. So it was good. Now, what we did was, though, not going after some big clinical home run that eventually would have to be really seriously funded. And that's, of course, a lot of these biotechs are set up, and they're set up to be sold because they can't possibly raise all the money necessary if they get a product, right? Now, only 1 in 10 survives, right? So the odds are not that great if you look at it. So just getting yourself into a situation where you have 9 times chances out of 10 of failing is not no scientist who's thinking we would want to get into a situation like that. So that's why I've just avoided all. No, it just takes time. It takes longer. You don't have as much money, but we put all the money we made back into the growth of the company. And 30 years later, we don't have to have investors. We have to have bankers, and we have a bank consortium that supports us. And now we're a bit of a slave to them, but they're a little more flexible, and they're not trying to take equity and you know own the company and maybe sell it to the US or somewhere. So no, I'm a Canadian nationalist. We want to keep it here, want to grow it here, and make it really big. That's the goal. And hire all these smart young Canadians that are very smart and love science, and give them really good jobs. I mean, that's the goal now.
It's lovely to hear you emphasize the important role of talent and people, because that's really what the company is built on, and that sense of sustainable success, long term sustainable success rather than boom and bust.
Yeah.
Now, Tony is asking a question in the chat. He can hear your ambitions for the company, and he's asking, are you still going to live to 150, or have you updated that ambition upwards?
Yeah, well, yeah, somehow I don't know who Tony is exactly, but I get calls from people who want to buy into the company, or would ask what my exit strategy is and all that. And I tell them my exit strategy is death, but I'm going to study, I'm going to understand immortality through my understanding of stem cells, and I'm going to live forever. So yeah, so more than 150 years, I'm looking at infinity actually.
And my research backs it up. Good. Well, let's thinking about one of the things that I definitely think of as a highlight with stem cell is the physical investment that you've made in, as you mentioned, originally 7th Avenue, and then now you've got a big manufacturing plant in the works, I think.
Yeah, well, the problem was that the whole basis of the company was to go for research use only products. That that didn't require FDA approval or Health Canada approval in order to sell stuff. So and we could always improve our products and make them better without having to go through another clinical trial or something like that, right? So that was the business model. But what's happened is people love our media and our cell separation products so much that they really want them to be made GMP so they can be used in clinical trials. And so we have started that. And in fact, our products are in over 80 clinical trials now. The problem that we have to deal with is if some of those products really go commercial, and people need a lot of one product or a small number of products, we need to be able to make them in a much bigger facility that has that capacity. And so that's why we're building out in Burnaby on Production Way, what we call our advanced biologics manufacturing facility. And it will be larger, and it will allow us to meet the needs should some of these products basically go commercial and require large volume manufacturing.
That's excellent. So it's the size of the company makes it sticky. The fact that the products are created in this highly skilled manufacturing facility makes it sticky. These are all key contributors to sort of creating a sticky anchor company for BC. Tell us a little bit more about why that's so important to you. Why do you think BC and Canada need more anchor companies?
Well, you see, most companies, startups, as I say, they're really doing the research to develop the product, and once they've got it, it gets sold to a bigger company that can actually market it and sell it and support it, and it's often sold to the US.
Mhm.
The products are not made here, right? So I was determined that we wanted to make our products here in Vancouver, Greater Vancouver, so we had control over them. We're all about quality control, and just making things right, and it's all about quality, really. So And then in order to do that, you need to have control and you're in your own facilities. We have contracted out some of our media to other companies to make in large volumes because some of our media, even for research use, requires large volumes. And so, and there's always problems with contracting out. So having it all here in Vancouver is really where we want to be. And of course, now that these are now sticky jobs because they are dependent on facilities, proven, validated facilities, right? And that's what we really need to think about building in Canada is jobs that are manufacturing jobs because they require these facilities and the trained people that go with them, as well as the knowledge of how to make those products and expand them in other areas. But it's the whole ball of wax that you need, right? And of course, then you also have the marketing and sales and tech support and distribution and so on. Like so, that's all part of what we do. And so, I mean, we have a big distribution center warehouse in Vancouver and out in Burnaby actually now, and another one outside of Seattle, another one in Grenoble, France, another one in Singapore, another one in Beijing. So we're all about selling our products. We can sell products anywhere in the world within 1 to 2 days. So that's we're able to do that. So, but having the basics of it all here in Vancouver, where we've got the knowledgeable people and the facilities, was always my dream. So, and I would like to now build on that as we go more and more clinical. I mean, we were definitely getting into clinical products, but we can afford them. It's not that we, and that is where the revenues are even greater. So if you do it right, so that's really where we're going. I mean, I think that we're going to be, in 20 years, we'll be more like a pharmaceutical company than a biotech company, and that's sort of exciting. And of course, you need all the people who understand this, the regulatory people, and so on. And we're building all that knowledge up, and that's what really creates a an anchor company. It's having all this knowledge in the company. And so we have internally 950 more now training programs, some of them which are very short, but some of them are like a mini MBA, right? So so we have to train people because most people are really not knowledgeable about all this, and that's working. And also, once you have an anchor company like this, yes, there's some people who get restless and want to go somewhere else and work in another company and foster growth in that. And that's when we've contributed to, number after 3 of the executives in STEMCELL are former STEMCELL employees, right? So and that's good. We're proud of all that, and to see STEMCELL and other companies like that growing, perfect. We want to build an ecosystem here that's large and where people can move around between companies and learn different things. And we get boomerang employees too who go somewhere and then come back, right? So but they picked up additional experience and that's to our benefit. So this is the sort of thing that we really want to see. And of course, once you've got a company that's bigger, like we spend 41 million a year on suppliers locally, so there's a big impetus. Our employees have over the years have paid 180 million in taxes, so there's this is helping, I mean, my ultimate goal, you could argue, is to improve healthcare. And healthcare is the largest industry in the world. It's, in British Columbia, it's a huge expense. And how do we turn it into a revenue generator? Well, it's by actually making the products that support it. And that's what we want to be able to do and have all those people making those supporting products, paying taxes, and helping to make our healthcare system even better. So that, it's this mix of academia leading to industry and going back and helping governments and so on. It's a bigger ecosystem than just the biotech thing. It's our economy, right? And how do we benefit everybody in this environment? by taking really strong entrepreneurial action and coming up with new companies that create new products and really contribute in novel ways to improving our economy.
Wonderful. I love that vision, and I can hear that you're tremendously ambitious for the future as well. Now, Andrea in the chat is saying, Dr. Allen, I know many startups that fail for various reasons. At any point in your career, did you think about giving up? Do you have any suggestions for new entrepreneurial aspirants?
Well, no, we never had a. I mean, there were some times when we had two occasions, right? One was when President Obama couldn't pay all the bureaucrats in Washington and in the country, in the U.S. And the U.S. is our biggest market, right? So sales just sort of plummeted. Everybody didn't know whether they were going to get their grants renewed, and we were selling largely to the academic community, and so that was that was a bit of a problem, and we were overstaffed again, and we had to lay off a few people, right? Which is quite traumatic. And then the same thing happened with COVID. When COVID started in 2020, all the academic labs basically closed down for a while, and for quite a while, and our sales plummeted 60%, and we live by our sales, right? Because we don't have any investors, we just have to live by our sales, which is great discipline, right? So we had to lay off some people and furlough people in Europe and so on. So we got through it, and then there's this boom now, and we've done really well, and we hired a whole bunch of people. Now we got to be careful again. So there are these ups and downs, right? But getting back to the startup situation, I do have a lecture on this. I tell people, if you're in an academic environment, use that academic environment to take your product idea or ideas as far as possible using university facilities. I mean, the university really wants you to do that, right? And don't be bashful about doing it, and just be a little undercover about it all. Don't make a big deal about it, but so the more information you have about how to make your product, the more valuable it is, and the more money you will get from investors if you have to go to investors, or getting a loan from the bank, right? So and it depends on the speed with which you have to develop this product. If it's clearly a potentially big clinical product, you have to have investors, right? And so there's no choice. It's so expensive. You need help, right? But there are a lot of things that you can do that are smaller companies, smaller products, and which will make money. So selling them as soon as you possibly can to get revenue that then allows you to grow over time is another model, and that's our model, and we've clearly benefited from it, right? I mean, nobody paid much attention to us for most of the 30 years that we've existed, right? But then after a while, now we're growing, we're doubling every 4 to 5 years in size and revenues, right? I mean, things are clearly growing, and that's great. But when you start, you have to do everything as cheap and chintzy as you can. That's would be my advice. And then go to the banks or investors if you need help. But and if you really feel confident about it, mortgage your house or any other resources you have. But I would also not advise you to go and get help from friends and family. I think that is a trap, and a lot of investors will tell you to get that support, right? Well, example, I can imagine an example where you get $100,000 from your father-in-law, and the company doesn't go well, and only one in 10 survives. I mean, those are terrible odds, right? So it's very likely that you're not going to be able to pay your father-in-law back. So just think how that plays out in time with your father-in-law, not to mention your wife and other members of the family, right? But investors want you to get totally committed, right? So you will not, you become their slave, right? And that's one way, getting you to have this huge obligation to your family and friends is another lever they have on you. And so, but if things go bad, they just leave you. They go and take their money and go elsewhere. And you're left with with firing people and tidying up the mess. So be very, very careful. Yeah.
Yeah. And never, as you say, never lose sight. The best dollar is a customer dollar.
Yes.
Get
Yes.
there as quickly as you can and then learn from your customers. It's wonderful. Now, um, both of our organizations are 30 years old this year. When you reflect back on what BC and its tech sector and its biotech sector looked like 30 years ago and what it looks like today, what's changed? What's the same?
Well, a lot of things have not changed. There's just this churn of startups and failures, which is not good. And I guess some people make some money in that course and they keep at it, but that's not, you know, I mean, you look at, there have been successes, Quadrilogics, Engitech, but they failed, right? And they failed because they got overextended or their product didn't work and a competitor came out and they were basically having one product too, right? So there was no fallback position really. Well, if you look at each of those companies, you can understand all the issues. So, but but there's something else happening here too. As we build, um, there are other companies that move in, like Amgen has bought what was John Schrader's company, and that's still out in Burnaby, right? And they're still doing stuff, hiring people. Things are still going there. Every so often they get a little nervous, and I hear talk that maybe they were going to leave or something, but no, they're still there. And now Cytiva has bought Precision Nanosystems and company that's making this filling system, Van X or whatever. And so what's happening now is the bigger companies see the value of what's going on in Vancouver and are moving in and acquiring some companies, and that's good. And but there's it's not as good as having a self-made company growing here doing all the things. I mean, those companies have all their legal team and their back-end support and accounting and all that. That's all somewhere else. It's not in Vancouver, right? So but still it's good. And they bring in probably uh, trained people that benefit the community. So this is good, and I think this will continue. The more successful we become as a cluster, the biotech cluster, the more that's going to happen, and that's all good. But I'm a bit of a Canadian nationalist. I want the big companies to be Canadian, right, and stay here, and and have most of their work done here. Now that doesn't mean that you, as a Canadian company, we've just recently made 2 acquisitions in the United States because of the stocks are not doing so well there, and that's been good for us, and we have a subsidiary in the U.S. as well to get cells to which we sell around the world as well. So there's a lot of things that do. America is a wonderful country in terms of business, and you have to be partner with that economy in order to be successful. There's no question about that. So 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 having knowledge of it and experience in it is critical, I think, to success as you become larger.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's as you start to attract the attention of the world or the industry because of the great things that are happening here. Sometimes you get some other positive changes and a richer ecosystem. But I am unapologetically a Canadian nationalist as well. Let's beat the world to get the gold medals ourselves. Now, Andrea again is asking a question in the chat, a really interesting one about your customers. So, online shopping has grown after COVID-19. Today, it's possible, she's telling me, to buy stem cell products online. In your opinion, do scientists buy those kinds of products online, or would they still value the sort of highly differentiated, good technical support that they would get from a company like STEMCELL?
Well, the two things are complementary. Yeah, I mean, we have people getting to know our website and the products there. We're not totally like Amazon yet, but that's our goal, right? So, and we're putting a lot of money into digitization of our whole company, to be honest, right? Uh, so, because now we've got like 2,500 products. I mean, how do we keep track of all those products and the raw materials that go into them and so on, right? So we're becoming, a digitized company, and and selling just through the web is now a big part of our sales, right? So, but it is also the tech support that I said earlier. A lot of people really don't know how to use our products, and so having having a training that goes with it. But what we've really got now is sort of streaming live training. So we used to offer courses here, and in our operation in Cambridge, England, where people would come and they have to stay in a hotel for a couple of nights, and they have to fly in and fly out and so on. Very expensive. But and then they'd crowd around a biohazard hood, watching somebody demonstrate how to use one of our products, right? And you could only have, at most a dozen people, because how many people can crowd around a biohazard hood, you see? But now what we've got is this several cameras in a biohazard hood, and those are streaming off to people. And so we could have 50 or 100 people actually seeing how to do a procedure really well, asking questions, and the operator can talk to them and tell them. So there's new ways of training people, which are really critically important. But our goal is to always have videos of all our products so you can see how to use them, and then augmented by training programs. So we have about 50 people who are just all about training and education of our customers. And of course, we also have about 300 salespeople who always have to be upgraded and retrained on our new products as well. So there's a lot of big educational component in our company.
Yeah, and the more you can digitize that, the
Yes.
better you can have quality control. So it's fascinating to think of technology enabling a technology company. That's a nice circle. Um, so if I did want to ask you a question about government. So when we sort of think about government and how they can help, what they could do to help, and maybe what they should avoid doing because it wouldn't help or might hurt, what would you say? Where should government have its focus?
Well, I'd start that discussion by saying, look at Ireland. Ireland has this same population as British Columbia, basically, sort of 6 million people. And they are the third largest exporter of pharmaceutical products in the world. And they have folks now, they're in the EU, and they've made their taxes lower. So they've attracted a lot of biotech and well, I should say pharma companies primarily, right? And they have a great training program for people who've like done a BSc and get trained to now work in pharma. And the result is there's lots of smart young kids in Ireland, well trained, who go into these companies, right? And of course, what's happened is that a lot of them worked in those companies for, I don't know, 7 years. They get the 7-year itch and want to see the rest of the world, right? And so we have attracted a lot of them. They found out about STEMCELL in Vancouver. So we have over 120 young Irish people working in STEMCELL who are all trained, especially in quality and manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. Wonderful, exactly what we need. And also now the provincial government here has licensed the training program that they've got, and it's actually all across Canada, this training program that they use in Ireland. And BCIT has adopted that and is anticipating training 700 people a year in this with this training program, which is wonderful. Okay, so that's a great thing that the British Columbia government has done, and they've also come out with sort of a paper summarizing what they would like to do to help grow the biotech manufacturing in British Columbia. And similarly, the federal government has the same sort of, they've come up with the same sort of statement and programs. Now, the federal government actually has, through the Scientific Innovation Fund, supported this sort of thing, and they always want a match from the provincial government, and British Columbia has helped us on one occasion, which was very important, and hopefully they will do so going forward. So this is, but you know what the idea is to build this biomanufacturing expertise in Canada and specifically in British Columbia. And you know, we create a lot of jobs, we pay a lot of taxes, and you know, it's a knowledge-based economy. It gets us something else than just the environmental, you know, or the resource-based economy. You know, how do we become, you know, more knowledge-based in the knowledge-based economy, I guess would be the way to put it. So I think governments, they see this opportunity. You know, some of them are trapped because where are the votes? The votes are in the existing sunset industries, right? So it can be very difficult for them to reallocate resources, but hopefully this will change, because like I say, healthcare is the biggest industry in the world and it's growing. Everybody's getting older, nobody wants to die, and they spend a lot of money on this. I mean, this is, and how do we, because it's so costly here, how do we provide, you know, revenue to support this through the industries that support the whole healthcare business? And that's what we really have to think about. It's a new way of really thinking, and yeah, Canada's resource-based, but no, let's think knowledge-based. We want to have the best healthcare system in the world, and we want to be able to support it appropriately.
Wonderful. And of course, you know, the every country in the world wants to develop its, you know, knowledge-based economy, but knowledge workers who can live and work anywhere they can
Yes.
in the world, I think BC is in a position to be highly competitive as a wonderful place to live and build a family and build a life. Um, Cost of housing to one side.
That's the problem. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that vision for really embracing the idea of being, you know, what's valuable is what we mine from people's heads rather than what we take from Mother Earth. Now, listen, I do want to come back to the chat and just encourage anyone who hasn't had a chance to ask their questions to pop one in. But I will ask Alan, just, I know we've touched on it earlier. What would be your primary advice to startups, or did you have any moments of hesitation along the way? But I do love to finish with some encouraging words of support, because there's nothing harder than building a startup. There's nothing scarier at the beginning. And I know that the words of encouragement and support from those like you that have made it is always really most welcome. So what words of advice and support and encouragement would you offer to the startups on the line?
Well, start small and map out your business plan, and right to who are you going to sell that product to, right? So you really know what your target audience is. You know, if it is simply to resell the product to a bigger company, you know, who are those companies? Understand those companies, right? If it's to customers like academics, really understand what their needs are, and target your product to them. So there's a, you know, you think it through, right? And how are you going to market that product? How are you going to sell it? How are you going to support it? You know, how are you going to make it? You know, is it something easily made? I mean, software is, you know, relatively easy to make, right? Making biologics is much harder, right? So but you know, think it all through and have a business plan, and probably, presented at some where there are opportunities to do that, to get constructive criticism. Don't be bashful about getting criticism and advice, but try to figure out how you can build it with your own resources as much as you can before you look to get help from outside, because help from outside, they want a return on that investment. And that, now you're starting to lose equity or influence or whatever. And if you depend too much on that, the whole thing will be taken away from you and you'll be, cast aside, because once if it's a really good idea, it's going to move, right? And are you going to be able to move with it or not?
Fantastic advice. And I will happily pick that up and run with it. If we do have startups on the call that are curious about how you can access supports like that, join BC Tech. We have a free membership stream for startups, gets you access to a C Council for peer-to-peer support, gets you access to our mentorship program where we'll put you one-on-one with a senior experienced person who has successfully scaled. Put yourself forward to make your pitch at our pitch nights, and you'll get fantastic advice from our dragon judges. But just embrace the process of making your business case as strong as it can possibly be by exposing it to people who can help you. So one final question from the chat again: do you have any stem cell mentorship programs for entrepreneurs or for people who are incredibly innovative? And here she is. Can I show you my business plan?
Certainly. Yeah, no, we're not training people to leave stem cell. Let's be honest here. No, we're training them to be able to form, to grow in the company. And I say everybody here, like we're doubling every 4 or 5 years, right? Everybody that's here, even though you just started, you're going to be a manager in 4 to 5 years, probably, right? So what's the training and skills you need to learn to be able to get promoted into those, more responsible and higher paying jobs? And that's just obvious. So and we've got all these courses. People just have to take advantage of them.
Excellent. Well, Andrea, you send us your business plan and we'll make sure it gets to Ellen. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for joining us. It's been fantastic to hear that story and all those insights and the different steps along the way. And frankly, to get to spend some time with one of Canada's greatest entrepreneurs and biggest Canadian nationalist. So I really appreciate you investing the time with us and our members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.